Hello, everyone. Thanks for joining us today for this webinar about the Community Investment Program application process. We appreciate you taking the time to participate. My name is Jenna Feldman, and I manage the Community Investment Program here at CIRA. A recording of the webinar will be available afterward through the CIRA website in the same section where you registered to attend today. Also, most of this information is available within our application guidelines online. A few logistical details. Given the large number of people participating in the webinar today, I can't hear you because your line is muted. So please type your questions in the right-hand panel, and we will make sure to answer them at the end of the presentation. If you can't see the control panel to ask questions, please click on the orange arrow to expand it. We will also send you a 3-question survey to fill out afterward to get your feedback on the webinar. Your responses will be anonymous, so please do participate. In this session, we'll discuss an overview of CIRA and the program, timeline, eligibility, funding focus areas, evaluation criteria, how to use the online application form, how to communicate your project outcomes, application tips, and finally, there will be time for Q&A. Our organization is CIRA, the Canadian Internet Registration Authority. We are a member-based, not-for-profit that has been in existence for 17 years. Anyone with a .ca domain can become a member of our organization for free. We run critical infrastructure for .ca websites and currently have more than 2.7 million .ca domains under management. While our number one priority is the safe and secure management of Canada's top-level domain, .ca, we also have a mandate to do good things for the internet in Canada. Our goal is to give back to the community in a measurable way by supporting initiatives and programs that help build a better online Canada. The Community Investment Program is our signature community program, though we do support other internet community activities, like the development of internet exchange points across Canada and an internet performance test, so you can test the speed of your internet connection. In early 2014, CIRA launched the Community Investment Program. It is a granting program where we financially support projects that meet our areas of focus and have a positive impact on Canadians. The program is funded through revenues earned from .ca website registrations and renewals. Our detailed financial information is available online if you'd like to learn more. In 2015, the Community Investment Program won an award for corporate social responsibility through the Centre Awards. The CSR Award rewards initiatives developed by country code top-level domains in the area of social responsibility. Canadian not-for-profits, registered charities, and research institutions are eligible for CIP funding. Our typical grant size is $25,000 to $50,000 to a maximum of $100,000. The Community Investment Committee is comprised of 11 individuals. 4 are CIRA board members, and the other members are leading internet thinkers who are independent of the board and of each other. So far, we have supported 102 projects with a total of $4.2 million. We have allocated another $1 million for this year. Now we will review the program timeline. The application period opened on January 15th and closes on February 28th at 4 p.m. Eastern. We do not accept late applications, and the online application system automatically closes after the deadline. After your application is submitted, a CIRA staff member will review your application to ensure it is complete. All reviews take place as soon as applications are submitted, and we will email you if anything is missing or incorrect. Typically, 50% of the applications submitted require some adjustment. We strongly recommend you submit your application well before the deadline so we can review it and you can make any adjustments required before the deadline. Only complete applications from eligible organizations will be provided to the Community Investment Committee. The committee reviews applications for approximately 1 month. Each application is reviewed independently by 3 committee members. Then the committee will meet on April 19th to discuss the applications and make their selections. The recommendation is provided to our Board of Directors for approval on May the 3rd. We then notify all applicants of the outcome of their application by email. If your project is chosen, you will receive a letter from us outlining the requirements for receiving the grant. The agreement may take up to 1 month to complete and sign. We will then make a public funding announcement in mid-June. Successful grant recipients can then begin their projects. The projects are intended to be approximately 1 year in duration. However, the project results will be sustained beyond the initial year. Now we'll review our funding focus areas. We support projects that support the development or enhancement of the internet for the benefit of all Canadians. Grants are meant to be a one-time investment and not intended as operating funding for an organization. Organizations must be based in Canada, and projects, while they can have a broader impact, must be of benefit to Canadians. Here are some examples of the types of projects we fund. Community access to the internet tools and devices. Online services for vulnerable or disadvantaged groups. These online services must create efficiencies. We don't have a specific definition of vulnerable, so please explain why the group you're proposing to reach is vulnerable in your application. Digital literacy and web safety. Infrastructure and internet security. This infrastructure must bring new or improved internet services to regional, rural, or remote communities. Research focused on the technological aspects of the internet, effective internet governance, how the internet itself is governed, projects that engender public participation in policymaking and political processes, and projects that address social, economic, and environmental needs. There are no quotas to fund a certain amount per type of project. Each project is reviewed based on its own individual merit. We also like to be clear about the types of projects we do not fund, since we do not want applicants wasting their time completing applications that are ineligible. Quickly, what we will not fund: requests for sponsorships, training proposals that provide generic IT training, projects whose main focus is outside of Canada, general fundraising appeals, ongoing core operations, for example, permanent staff salaries, administrative functions such as firewalls and intranets, projects solely focused on website development and design, for example, graphic design, retrospective costs, applications seeking IT equipment for general purpose training rooms, and marketing or research associated with marketing activities. In the first year of the program, we received over 145 applications, and last year we received over 170 and funded 24. We can't predict how many applications we will receive this year. Now we'll review the criteria by which all applications are evaluated. First, does it fit with our strategic plan? Our goal is to build a better online Canada. This means building a world-class Canadian internet that is safe and secure. So, is the project of high quality? Is it innovative? Does it use an original approach to meeting a community need? Are the outcomes clear? And how many people will the project reach? Some of the feedback the committee shared in the past was that project outcomes are not clear. Applicants did not clearly explain the results they're hoping to achieve. Therefore, we've provided applicants with 2 additional tools to help you plan and communicate your project outcomes. They are included in the How to Apply section of the website: the logic model for project planning and the measuring results tip sheet. Please clearly articulate the indicators you will use to measure and communicate your results. Is a project well planned with clearly defined objectives? Has your organization made an appropriate financial contribution to the project, proportional to the financial strength of the organization? This can be through your own resources, whether cash or in-kind support. And finally, is a project financially viable and the budget reasonable? Here are some additional considerations as you complete your application. Applicants are encouraged to make their digital tools openly available so others can learn and benefit from the project. For example, applicants can host their documentation publicly via GitHub or equivalent and openly license their solutions. Applicants are encouraged to partner with other organizations as appropriate to work together on common issues, share expertise and learnings from the project. So when developing your proposal, check to see whether others have done or are doing similar work and partner with them to reduce duplication and amplify your learnings. Please note that we will only accept an application from the lead organization. Applicants should consider whether their results can be scaled for further impact. There are some materials you need to gather and submit along with the application form and project budget. First, you must provide proof of eligibility. Examples of proof can include documentation confirming your charitable status and incorporation or your not-for-profit incorporation. Academic researchers should provide a letter confirming that you are employed by the academic institution on letterhead. In addition, nonprofit organizations and charities must provide a list of your board of directors with the board members' contact information, including organizations, titles, phone numbers, and emails, and a copy of your most recent audited financial statements. If you do not have audited financial statements, we will accept reviewed statements conducted by an accountant that have been signed by 2 members of your board. A current year operating budget. Please ensure the organizational budget indicates the year. The operating budget is a compilation of forecasted revenues, less known organizational expenses, and expected future costs. The operating budget must cover the next 12 months. Universities are not required to provide their organizational budgets, but they must provide a resume for the lead researcher. The committee will receive and review only the application form and attachments we have requested. All of this information is to be submitted through the online system. You'll submit the application itself in our online system. However, the questions in the application form are provided in HTML format on our website, so you can view the entire application form together and put draft responses in another document if you wish. We provide explanations throughout the form to clarify what is being asked of you with each question. When you are in the online application system, you will see the relevant project outcomes questions to answer based on your organization type and stated project type, such as online services or digital literacy. For example, applications from a research institution must answer one additional question. How will your project advance your field of work and the internet in Canada? Now we'll discuss the online application form. You can access the link to the online application form through the CIRA site in the How to Apply section and in the application guidelines. You'll need to create a login and password for the application system. Then you can begin your application and you can save partial responses as you go. When you log into the system, you will see all of the tasks you need to complete. The application form is one task, the budget form is one task, and the rest of the attachments required are listed as individual tasks. You can also add other members to your application to complete it together. Once you click on your organization type and complete the application form, the uploads you do not need to complete will no longer appear. For example, if you're applying from a university, you are not required to submit your organizational operating budget and board of directors list. This task is only required for nonprofits and registered charities. The project budget sheet is an Excel form that must be downloaded through the online system, filled out, and saved, then re-uploaded into the system. Here are a few tips for completing the budget form. Total revenues must match total expenses. You can allocate up to 15% of your grant request to administration. Keep estimates if you receive quotes from potential vendors. Please explain how you arrived at certain expense estimates. For example, show hourly rates. The financial ask of CIRA must be in line with your organization's size and capacity. And ensure you reflect all in-kind values within the revenue and expenses sections. Once you finish all of the relevant tasks, a senior representative in your organization must complete the authorization form, confirming that they approve the application form and budget. You can add the authorizer to the application, and they will receive an email inviting them to review and approve the application. The authorizer signs the form using their mouse as a pen. Please note that the application can only be submitted by the submission owner and not the authorizer. We aim to gather as much information as possible about your project outcomes. What did you create with the funds? How will your project make a difference? And how will you measure the difference? We provide all grant recipients with a final report form that they must complete 90 days after the project grant period ends. The form asks how the project's results compared to what was projected at the beginning. The final report questions are also available on the website in HTML format, so you can see what information will be requested of you. Here are a couple of examples of testimonials from previous projects. Testimonials from end users are a helpful way of seeing your outcomes in action. To familiarize yourself with the types of projects we fund, please read about our past grant recipients on the Find a Project page on our website. All of the 102 projects we've supported in the past are listed. As projects are complete, we update project descriptions with outcome information. During the application process, you will need to self-identify your project type. Please choose the type that best describes your project. We want to emphasize that we encourage you to submit your application well before the deadline, so there are no last-minute delays. Emails will be automatically generated as part of the application process from noreply@fluidreview.com. Please do the following to make sure you receive all of these important emails. Review your daily quarantine reports for emails from the system, or check your junk email folder. If you have a system administrator, ask them to add the IP address to your anti-spam appliance. You'll receive a confirmation email once your application has been successfully submitted. If you're unsure whether your application has been properly submitted, please email us. We hope this webinar has been helpful to you. Please do not hesitate to contact us if you have additional questions. Please email cip@cira.ca with questions about your eligibility and the overall process. Please do note that CIRA staff are unable to provide personalized guidance and feedback about the merits of your proposed project. Please contact Fluid Review directly for questions regarding any technical issues with your application. You can reach the link by clicking Help in the online application system. It appears in the right top corner. Thank you so much for your interest in the Community Investment Program. We wish you the very best and look forward to receiving your application. Now we have time for questions. If you have questions, again, please write them and I will try to go through and answer them as best I can. Okay, I've got a few here. I will start from the top. Okay, can an organization partner on more than one application, not the lead? We would need to discuss that actually on a case-by-case basis. So please email me to describe, because only one organization can apply at a time. And the same goes for vendors. So please email specifics to cip@cira.ca about that. Thank you. Are universities and colleges only eligible for research projects? Can they request funds for free training programs for community members in the general population? Yes, universities and colleges are eligible to request funds for training programs. It's not restricted solely to research for those organizations. How many applications are taken? So as I mentioned, last year we received 171 applications and we funded 24 projects. So that's been the approximate number that we funded in the past. One year we funded 25. But again, we do have $1 million total in funding to distribute this year. Are we eligible to apply with a Canadian charity but a .com website? Yes, you do not need to have a .ca to apply, but of course we encourage you to get one. Are the award amounts per year or total? We distribute one grant, and that is for 1 year project for approximately a 12-month project per organization. Okay. Here's a question. Do you allow funding for web development that lead to goals for communities? You can email us to clarify exactly, but in general, our funding is not for website development. For projects that address social, economic, or environmental needs, do these need to be related to internet access? Can you give an example of a project that you have funded before in this category? The projects really vary. With respect to that, those types of projects, they've typically been online services. So we've funded, for an example, an open data standard for water, recreational water. So that obviously uses the internet, but it's not necessarily about internet access directly. For more information about the types of projects we funded, we again invite you to visit our projects page, and you can look through in detail all the projects we funded in the past. Can you please indicate the 4 items that you said must be included in the operating budget? Revenue, expenses, and expected costs. So those are the items. All this information that I shared with you today is in our application guidelines. So if you missed something, feel free to visit those application guidelines. And also there will be a recording of this webinar here that you can watch again or share with your colleagues if they missed it. Okay, a few more questions. Do you grant less than 25,000? Or is that not considered impactful enough for your programs? So historically, we have provided a couple of grants, I'd say a few, less than 25,000. Again, it's on a case-by-case basis, but you need to think about outcomes, how many people you're reaching, so it's always a trade-off there, and leave it to you to put forward the type of project that you feel is best for your organization. Do focus groups or interviews with vulnerable users count as marketing research? If the project is solely about marketing research, then we don't fund those types of projects, as I mentioned. But if marketing research is an aspect of your program or your project, in order to better understand the populations you're trying to serve, then that could be an acceptable cost. If you have specific questions about that, feel free to email us at cip@cira.ca. Okay, we got a bunch more questions. Very engaged group. For the estimated budget for this proposal, should we include just this initiative or include the larger organization budget that will include this initiative? My general recommendation is to show the budget as it relates to the project that we're funding. So if it's a little broader, then that's fine, but then indicate which amounts are specific to what we're funding. And if you need more clarity on that, email us. Will the slide deck be emailed to us? No, we don't email the slide deck to you, but we do provide a recording of the webinar on our YouTube channel, and that will be in the same spot where you guys all registered for this. Again, all this information is within our application guidelines, so we're hoping that that will satisfy your need for information. We're part of a teaching hospital. Should we submit as a teaching hospital or as our university affiliation? Again, I don't have specific advice for you. I'd say put forward the organization as long as they're both eligible, whichever one makes more sense. For you, that will be the organization that is signing the grant agreement and that receives the funding that we send by check. So I leave it up to you if both are eligible. Regarding partnering with the organizations who are doing something similar, do they also have to be nonprofits or charities? That's a good question. We obviously would like we would like to be supporting nonprofits or charities, but there potentially could be a situation where we're funding a social enterprise. But again, I would need to understand the details of that. So please email me, email the CIP@cira.ca email address. Because we do, for example, fund projects where there's a vendor that is providing a service to the nonprofit, and that organization is a for-profit organization, so that's okay. It would be the same in this case. Okay, there's a question that's pretty specific. I will address later. We are not a not-for-profit, right? So we're very strict that only nonprofits, registered charities, and academic institutions can apply for funding. Can you expand a bit by what you mean by infrastructure? So in internet infrastructure might be towers, it might be setting up hardware in hard to reach locations so people get access to the internet. And there is a blog post on our website where we outline some infrastructure projects that we funded in the past. I suggest you reference that and let us know if you have any questions. Thank you. Did you say that we can submit a draft application to you for comments? What I said is that once you're finished your application, the entire complete thing, and you send it in, CIRA staff reviews it for two things. We review it to ensure that your project is eligible, and we also review it to ensure that all your documentation is correct and you're not missing anything. So the only comments we will provide are about whether your project is not eligible, or hopefully it is by the time you've gone to the trouble of completing a whole application, or whether any of your documentation is correct. Okay. I represent a nonprofit partnership, and we're thinking to apply specifically for app development that will act both as an educational and technical tool. Okay. So I'm not exactly sure what the question there is, but I think that in terms of defining your category, just choose the one that best represents your project in the drop-down menu. How many applications can the same university apply for? We don't have a limit about how many applications one university can apply for. We do ask that only the lead applicant from the organization apply only once. Would you recommend applying for a project you applied for last year if you didn't receive funding? Absolutely, you're welcome to reapply. And I mean, I would think you would take a look at your application, see if there are any improvements that you can make to it based on the information that we're sharing, but you're certainly welcome to reapply for funding. And, you know, our general advice is do what's best for your organization. We don't provide specific information about what types of projects you should apply for, just to be fair to everybody. What is the timeline to realize a project starting from June 2018 until June 2019? Yes, that is the typical timeline. If you need to start 1 month earlier for whatever reason, that is usually okay. There's a little bit of wiggle room, but we certainly do not want you to start your project until you've received confirmation that you've received the funding and you've signed your grant agreement with us. Meant to ask if we are eligible to apply for app development. Yes, that is something that you're eligible to apply for. Organization is new, don't have a 1-year operating budget. So we then encourage you to create a projected operating budget with your projected revenues and expenses over the next 12 months in as much detail as you can, and then ask 2 members of your board of directors to sign that document, assuming that, of course, that's not audited by they're not audited financial statements. Can you explain more about what you do not fund? I'm not able to provide any more information about that here, but feel free to visit our application guidelines and then email cip@cira.ca if you've got specific questions. Thank you. Can you apply for a program that is already in operation? Yes, you can. You need to describe how this project is distinct. And of course, we will not fund retrospective costs, so we'll only fund forward costs by the time you complete your grant application. Okay. Does the organization have 12 months to spend once received, or is the 12 months a calendar or fiscal year? So you receive your funding once the grant agreement is signed, which typically is in June of 2018, and you'll have 12 months from that date to complete your project. I have 2 projects that complement each other. Should I have only one application for both? Should I apply for only one project? You know, unfortunately, we can't provide you with advice there. Again, please put forward what's best for your organization. And you know, as long as the project outcomes are clear and the project is 12 months in duration, you're eligible to apply. Okay. Could we apply for a program for an organization with staff in various locations? So I would have to know more about it, but as long as those people are located in Canada, for the most part, yes, you'd be eligible. Would audio-visual equipment for video conferencing webinars be eligible? So, you know, that's a bit of a, I need to know more. I would say, again, we don't fund general operational projects, and we don't fund IT equipment for general training. So if it were for general training, then no, that wouldn't be eligible. Okay. If requested, would you connect applicants with a contact person of a previous project funded? Excuse me. Yes, we'd consider that. Sorry, I just grabbed some water. As long as we asked the past grant recipient for permission and they were open to it, then we would be happy to connect you if it were relevant. You mentioned that 50% of applications need additional review and are given feedback. Does this review process only happen before the submission deadline, or is there a possibility to receive feedbacks and submit revisions after the submission deadline, providing the right? So this is why we like you to apply well before the deadline, because we do review for completeness and eligibility prior to the deadline. So all of your documentation needs to be in, ideally at least a day. I mean, we recommend that you apply, complete your application as soon as possible, because we've seen technical difficulties happen. We don't want anyone to be ineligible because their materials weren't in on time, but you know, at a minimum 24 hours before the deadline, so we can provide you with feedback, would be wonderful. Take the stress off our hardworking staff who review applications toward the deadline. Can towns or townships apply as well? Unfortunately not. Our application is only open to nonprofits, registered charities, and research institutions, not municipalities. Do you accept additional information to help evaluate our project proposal? No, we only accept the materials that we've asked for. Could you clarify what we're to submit for our current year operating budget? Is it the current fiscal year or the next 12 months? So it's ideally for the next 12 months. If your fiscal year is from March to March, then we would want it to go until March 2019 to cover the time period when the grant is active. Okay, can the partnership be with a municipality? We would need to understand how that project's working, so I would recommend that you email us about that. What do you require as proof of nonprofit status? Is it sufficient to provide a charitable registration number? We would like to see your articles of incorporation, or we would ask for you to provide your charitable registration number, yes, but if you have additional proof of whence the organization came to be, that would be welcome as well. Okay. Gosh, a lot of questions. Let me just take a look through some. If you wouldn't, please bear with me. Make sure I get through all this. Okay. Can the partnership be with a community school? I think that was the same person who asked about a municipality. So again, email us the details. We'll let you know. Yeah, so we hope that the operating budget, just another question about the operating budget, we hope that it will cover until the end of the project. Email us if you have any questions. Okay. We got... If there's documentation missing from the application, but we don't submit until the deadline, would our application be disqualified, or would we still be given the opportunity to send the missing information? So we need all of the information by the deadline, which is February 28th at 4 o'clock Eastern. Will you provide funding focus groups that will work toward improving website content and website app development? We need to understand the full scope of the project, so I can't answer that definitively. Just please email me the details. Okay. Yeah, there's some question about the projects. I'm not going to address them all here. I recommend that you look at some of the past projects we've funded so you can see the elements within them. So we would consider some hardware, but that wouldn't be the entire project. What a grant for... If a university applies for a research project, will CIRA own the intellectual property? No, we do not own the intellectual property. We would have a license to display it, and that is just typically to promote it and have a link to it on our website. So we can send you, if you're concerned and you're from an academic institution, we're happy to send you our draft grant agreement so you can see what is in it, because we are rather inflexible about making changes to our standard grant agreement. Okay. Can finding partners for using the final project be part of the expenses that can be covered by CIRA? I think you might be talking about evaluation of a project, and yes, that can be part of your budget. Where should I email additional questions? Please email cip@cira.ca. That email address is also on our website. Okay. What is CIRA's percent of funding? For example, 100% of project costs. We don't have a guideline there. It's on a project-by-project basis. Okay. Do you consider Creative Commons non-commercial license terms as open licenses? Or must the content... for technical questions like that, I would say email us. You know, we understand that there's a range of openness and open licenses, but the spirit of what we're asking for is really just to make your findings, whatever you create, as broadly accessible as possible so others can benefit from it. Okay. Can a project have a start date later than June? For example, August, September, or October. Again, there's a bit of wiggle room. We don't have a strict deadline for that, but I would say beyond 1 to 2 months, you would need to email us about that. Okay, let me just take one look through. Yeah, I think I covered most of them. There really are a lot, which is fantastic. This is what this is for. But if you found that your question wasn't answered adequately, please don't hesitate to email us. Now is the time to clarify everything. And thank you so very much once again for participating. We really appreciate it. We appreciate all the time and effort that you put into your applications, and we wish you the best. Thanks, everyone. Take care.